Yes, everyone, this is in 4K, this one. Scary thought, seeing all of our beautiful faces in 4K. I've got Johnny, I've got Carl, I've got Harry. Newcastle have battled their way through a hard-fought 3 points, and this is the last word. Yes, everyone, welcome back to NFTV. Hope you all had a fantastic weekend, because we are now, because Newcastle have come away with a massive 3 points, especially with the Champions League places getting very, very tight. More on that later on in the video, but we'll jump to, as we always do with the last word, drop us a like on the video. We'll begin with lineups. We'll then talk about the game. We might hear from Eddie Howe. In fact, we will. We'll talk a little bit about the league position, injury to Bruno, and maybe some transfer speculation. But Johnny, the big talking points, we'll talk about them properly later, is Joe Linton, would he not, would Eddie Howe discipline him? What's your stance on this? Is he right to play him or is he not?
I don't think Eddie Howe could have won today. I said this before the game. I think if you play him, he would have said, there would have been people saying that he shouldn't have been playing today because of what happened through the week. If you don't play him, it's a weakness to Newcastle United. I think when you've got that such of a debate amongst Newcastle fans and people that aren't Newcastle fans, I think Eddie Howe probably made the right decision because, look, if you talk about his performance today, it was absolutely phenomenal. I would say in 90% of cases, if you do something like drink driving, you're probably expected to be at work very, very soon. I know football is it's a different kettle of fish at times because they're in the public figure, but on balance, I think Eddie Howe probably made the right call. But if he didn't, and he didn't play him for whatever reason because he wasn't in the right headspace or he thought that wasn't acceptable, then I would have agreed with that as well, because it depends on how you see it, it depends on difference of opinions. But like when Bruno came off today, Joe Linton was absolutely phenomenal. That was probably a big reason why Newcastle actually got the 3 points. I know it's irrelevant in terms of the actual goal itself, but yeah, I can understand why that decision was made.
Yeah, I'll come to that a little bit later with the tweak in their formation. Carl, looking at Fulham briefly, Fulham are massively surprising a lot of people this season, and they've picked up, top four club players, established, but wouldn't necessarily start, like Leno, Willian, Pereira, Diop, West Ham. They've picked up some players that are good technical players. Were you worried about their form coming into this?
Definitely. They were, 6th, 4 points behind us. Hadn't lost in the league since November against Manchester United in the 4th round of the FA Cup. I thought these, everyone kind of goes on about Tottenham and Liverpool and Chelsea, but the tough games this season are the likes of Fulham, who are potentially could have been top 4 contenders if they'd have beaten us today. And to be fair, they probably could have. Obviously, we'll come into it, but there was opportunities for them to win the game as well. And I think they've been fantastic this season. They've recruited well, and it was always going to be a tough game. I think looking at it, this was going to be our toughest game so far this season, definitely.
Wow, so far this season. Fantastic banner for Eddie Howe at the Leazes end as well. I didn't see that coming at all. I didn't even know about it. So it was fantastic. The great message underneath that we're not here to please everyone. Well, it was on the lines of that.
We're not here to be popular.
We're not here to please everybody. We're here to win games. And sometimes, Harry, you've got to win ugly, which we'll come to later. But loads of chances, first and second half, and they were all predominantly, in particular, I'm thinking in that first half, is Callum Wilson had the best two.
Yeah, that one on the turn where he's tested Leno, and then the one where he's pretty much one-on-one, isn't he? And he seems to want to curl it round him, just put his foot through it, just blast it past the keeper. It's a shame because they were the best two chances. I didn't think we created many brilliant chances. The first one was probably a half chance. He had a tame header as well. I think we did struggle for creativity in that first half. I think Bruno struggling with an injury didn't help that. I think Miggy on the right wasn't really creating chances. He looked bright, he looked full of energy, but I think we were just a little bit flat in that first half. I think everyone, possibly after Tuesday night, just looked a bit flat and a bit off the pace, really.
Yeah,
for me.
bit off the pace. Obviously, went into half time. Fulham, nice on the ball. Like I say, they've got a couple of great technicians, but Nick Pope, even second half, what did he have to do? But I want to talk about the injury because we kind of got a bit of a heads up where Bruno was like doing this, and I think one of the two in the WhatsApp group that we've got said he was actually upset. He was actually in tears. Hopefully that's not serious, because if we do make a final, he has to start regardless of whoever's in form for me, because of the quality shown the last 12 months. But the tweak with saint-maximin coming on, did that help in a strange way?
It did massively. I think, look, he's so direct, and I think Fulham were a little bit petrified. I think it wasn't a case of saint-maximin completely won the battle. He had some times where he didn't get through Fulham's defence, but Fulham were just scared of him. They really, really were, and he could have scored or just dragged it wide, and he was always a threat, really, really was. Just a quick thing on Bruno. Newcastle don't play that League Cup game for 10 days. If he's not involved against Crystal Palace, I'm not that concerned, to be honest. I think we've got enough for one Premier League game to go, do you know what, make sure you're right for that Tuesday game, which is crazy because we're third in the Premier League right now. But saint-maximin was a huge, huge difference, and I know there was arguments for him to play for other reasons that we've talked about. But if he is on that sort of form and Bruno's not available next week, I'd start him.
Well, you mentioned it just before. It moves Joe Linton back into the midfield, and you were a big fan. You've just said there, you shouted his plaudits.
Yeah, look, for me, Joe Linton's probably more better in midfield, but he can definitely do a job. He was arguably one of his best performances of the season was Leicester away, and he played off the left. So it's one of those. We've got two good options from that point, but I think we don't really get many good performances from Joe Willock and Joe Linton at home when they're so close to each other. It's very rare that we get that. Maybe Chelsea at home is the only one I can really think off the top of my head, but that is a slight issue, but it's a small issue that we can deal with. I think Newcastle just about deserved it today when you look at how well we played in certain areas of the pitch.
Carl, I'm going to come to you on this one. We had a few chances. We had a couple of shots at ESM, just went wide. I think we hit the post with Fabian Schär, free kick as well. But the big talking point amongst the neutrals, probably, as well as Fulham fans, is the penalty. And there was quite a bit of play afterwards.
That's what got me.
Yeah, because he's thinking about it when the play's going on, and then he'll come back to it. And the VAR have got a long time to have a look at it. And for me, it does look, from the other end, I think it looks Stonewall. And I'm in the Gallagher. I think you've said it.
I don't know how the referee had to have a look at it. I think he bottled it. If I'm honest, the referee looked at it and gone, "Ooh, it's got 50,000 Geordies."
We were in good voice today in that second half. To be fair, and that probably is the reason, because I couldn't tell properly from where I was sat because I'm so low down. But I think the frustrating thing was that it seemed like there was 3 or 4 phases of play before they made a decision. That's why I was frustrated by it. If it's a penalty, it's a penalty. But like you say, make the decision when you're supposed to. It's just, I'm sure it felt like there were 2 or 3 minutes gone already, but you know, light shines down and Mitro misses. Well, not misses, but he fluffs it. Bless him. So Mitro's a Geordie, isn't he? At the end of the day.
I we were singing that. What you were saying there, Johnny?
I was just going to say there. Look, VAR. Howard Webb's taken over, and he said they will not intervene unless it's an absolutely ginormous error. And then, like, it seemed that to me, like. Not many knew, even when it was because it was a corner, it ended up being a corner. That was about a minute and a half after it. But it's the right decision. I've got no issue with it if it is a Stonewall error.
It is a penalty. Yeah. I don't need to look at it.
I just find it mental how long it took. Like it took for the whole cup, 2 phases of play, 2-3 phases of play afterwards, and then the referee still has to hold off the corner, think about it, talk to the referee, think about it, then go over to the monitor and. Taking time out of the game, it's just pointless. Like, it doesn't need to take that long, surely. Like, surely VAR can just operate better.
I think the most important thing, the referee got it right.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's why VAR's in there.
Didn't do it there and then. That's the only thing. Definitely, if it's a right decision, it's a right decision. Like we said, there's absolutely no. Had he have scored, no one would have had an issue with it. What we've got an issue is should have made the decision there and then. That's what it's there for. But benefited us, so it is what it is.
So Harry, I'll come to you. I'll let you have the Mitrovic one. So Aleksandar Mitrovic. You think, the one player that you don't want, is he going to celebrate? Is he not? He runs up straight down the middle. He slips, but then you see Nick Pope run at the referee, Trippier, Schär. There was all of them running at the referee. Mitrovic is running off. I think a Fulham player goes falling over, celebrating. They're all running off to the corner, and they're switched on, and they know that he's double hit it. I think the rule, I might be wrong with, I think it got changed when Zenden did it in a cup final after that. When Middlesbrough won the only ever trophy that they've ever won, bless them. But going back to the topic, what's your thoughts on that?
What the whole
after VAR, the whole carry on of double hitting it.
Oh, it's class. It's just scenes, wasn't it? First of all, I was thinking, what on earth is going on here? Like, why is it disallowed? Then I was like, oh, has he double kicked it? I saw him slip over, and then just everyone just was up in arms, just celebrating. It's just class. Like, it's really funny, and I love Mitrovic. I always did. I loved his passion when he was playing for us. But I think it's absolutely hilarious. And bless him, he'll probably laugh too.
Yeah, it's against a former player, Mitro as a Geordie and all that. Right there and then, the substitution for Isak was already being thought about, whether we went 1-0 down or you know, he didn't score, whatever. But interestingly, he doesn't play him up top. I had a whinge in the WhatsApp if you haven't seen this. I'm totally wrong on that. I'll hold my hands up and said, why is he not playing him up top? So he plays him and he tweaks it, he goes 4-2-3-1 and has Isak just behind Wilson. And that's the first time this season, Johnny, that we've seen Wilson, Isak and ASM in the same lineup. Well, same team.
It's great, isn't it? It's absolutely great. It's brilliant. And could you imagine just Bruno in that as well? It'll be unbelievable. But look, everybody wanted Isak on. And I think he brought him on at the right time. I think we needed a bit of that extra burst of pace as well. But the one thing with Isak, he's so good on the ball. Like, he does get tackled a couple of times, but he does drive you forward. That's the one thing. It's
silky.
Yeah, it is. It really is, because there's so many times where we did get in a certain position on the pitch and we just ran out of ideas. I thought Fulham were very, very organised. I think Marcus Silva's drilled them really well. But we were getting to about 65-70% up the pitch and we were kind of like, oh, what do we do? Isak at times just created something a little bit different. If you saw Alan saint-maximin earlier on and before he scored, I think Maxi's going to have a sitter. If he misses that, then God knows what happens. But look, he was brilliant, and sometimes you just need to be at the right places at the right time, and normally what happens, good strikers do that. When they're at the right place at the right time. Sometimes they just get the bare look of the green.
I want to talk about that briefly, because if that's and this is not me popping out any centre midfielder, if that's a Bruno, if that's a Sean Longstaff, possibly even Joe Willock, I don't think that run happens. And I think that's because he's a striker and he sees the ball out left to think, right, my first instinct, I'm going to dart 10 yards forward.
Definitely, it's like you said, the striker's instinct. Lots of, if your sole position or your main position is that, obviously you're going to look at the game in a different way. So he knows he's got to be in and around that area to pick up the scraps. And Callum Wilson worked very well around the keeper several times today to win the ball back, and Miggy was obviously fantastic as well. So I'm not surprised that Isak was in that position, definitely. And I think he'll bring us more goals because he will be in those positions moving forward.
So Newcastle go on to win. We had a couple of chances afterwards, but Harry, I want to come just back to that. Full time's over, and obviously the lap of appreciation as ever. With Bruno's potential injury, we'll go with along the lines he's out for a couple of weeks or so, a few weeks. Is that an option now that we can use rather than having, because Sam's adamant Isak was bought as a striker, but he was playing in that behind Callum Wilson. You might obviously give him the option on the left now. Do you see maybe Joe Linton and Sean or Willock now sitting in the two instead, or do you think he'll stick with what he knows?
I think he will stick with what he knows, but it is an option, definitely, like today, going later on into games. I think also, I'm sure we'll come on to this as well, but more importantly, are we in a midfield crisis if Bruno's out? Because then we've only got three midfielders, one for each position.
One of them's playing left wing.
Yeah, so I assume Joe Linton, if we stick to 4-3-3, he will fill in that centre midfield role. But then if we get another injury, two centre midfielders, do we need to buy another centre midfielder? So obviously a lot rides on that Bruno injury. But in terms of the 4-2-3-1, yeah, I liked it today. I think it worked well, but I don't think we could sustain it against a more high quality opposition because there were gaps, and there were big gaps on the wings. I think Maxi wasn't really dropping back, so Dan Burn didn't have an out ball. I think on the right hand side with Miggy as well, until Jacob Murphy came on, I didn't really think there was an out ball on the right as well. So it can work, but only in kind of desperation when we're pushing for that goal, not when we're, say, 1-0 or 2-1 up, like something like that,
Let's hear from Eddie Howe at full time.
It was certainly a crazy second half. A lot happened in it. From being quite a calm first half, we had a lot of chances. We were, I thought, very good in patches in the first half, couldn't score. But the second half really did bring a lot of excitement to it. I thought the first challenge from my side could have been a penalty. That wasn't given. The second one I didn't think was then bizarrely given. So it's a strange one. I need to see it again and review it totally. But that was my gut instinct when I saw it live. And then, of course, the double touch I couldn't see, had no view of it, but I was very pleased to see that turn out that way. Moments can sometimes do that. You get something that you feel is, I'm not saying an injustice, but something happens in the game, a flashpoint. We didn't concede. We're then 0-0 and the crowd are very much in the game. And I thought from that moment on, the crowd were really, really good for us and rewarded with the goal at the end. That was a special moment. Yeah, so pleased for Alex. It's when you come to a new club, you want to hit the ground running. And he did, to be honest, with his performances until the injury. But then he's had to wait and watch and see the team do very well in his absence. But he's been very calm and composed about his comeback, and he's worked very hard. And it's for those moments that all that work was worth it.
So that was Eddie Howe on the win today, the grinder win. I think Newcastle fully deserved it. Callum Wilson, he was getting actually sticking one of our videos in the comments, and he's not doing his job. And if you keep presenting those chances, he will score. Look, we're presenting the chances today. As long as that may continue, we will score. Johnny, I want to come to what Harry talked about. We'll talk a little bit about the transfer market, because there is that issue with John Joe Shelvey, Bruno to some extent. Hopefully it's not serious. Do you see it just because we expect Shelvey back, late January, early February? Again, match fitness.
I think it was longer than that,
Was it?
I think it was 6 to 8 weeks or something like that.
How long has it been now? Since Boxing Day, and it was announced. So
Boxing Day. So about 2-3 weeks.
So mid-February. So maybe another month. So does he? Because you're in that predicament there. Do you go out and splash the cash on, make it now all about a centre midfielder? I don't know. The James Maddison rumours could, a more advanced number 10, whatever. Or do you just think, I might just dip in the loan market just to cover Bruno / Sorry, John, go on. What would you do? You're playing Football Manager, right? Johnny's playing Football Manager right now.
I haven't done that for donkeys yet. I personally would go and buy someone, not loan, and the only reason why I would buy is because John Joe Shelvey's out of contract at the end of the season.
You don't think he'll get that?
Well, who does he come in for? If you buy another midfielder, because he has to start games. It's not a case of just coming on as a substitute. He has to start 2 or 3 more games, and I think that's when you kind of go, do you know what? Maybe think more long term. If it is Ruben Neves, if it is James Maddison, if it is Yuri Tielemans, or if it's somebody else that we've not even been talking about, then I think Newcastle might just do that. I think that regardless of whether Bruno's out for too long, I think you can still do that deal, because to say Bruno's out for 2 or 3 weeks, which could happen, you don't know how bad that injury is, then it's still another great option potentially. Could you imagine Ruben Neves in this team? Ooh. But
as long as we don't play long ball, he'd be all right.
No, well, I'm sure it is though, right? If he did sign, right, and this, I'm telling you now, right, if he did sign this, everyone would be going, "What a sign! I've always rated him as a great player."
Yeah. Well, it's interesting what will happen in the transfer market. There's going to be tons of speculation as well. I think we're rumoured to some young kid in France as well, which Steve's been telling us about as well. So we'll keep an eye out on that more as we get that. But we'll talk about the league table at the minute, because yes, the Sheffield Wednesday defeat was deflated. Then we got that great win against Leicester. We're sitting 3rd in the league. I think it's a point behind Manchester City. They're still to play, of course. I'll have the updated table now for you. And we're in the semi-finals against a favourable opposition, you would say. That defeat at Sheffield Wednesday was a bit, but it's great times being a Toon fan still, and we're probably going to strengthen.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I, for one, wasn't too fussed about the Sheffield Wednesday game, I said, because I wanted to focus on the Carabao Cup and focus on the league. And it was one of those today. Had Fulham have beaten us today, I would have been disappointed. But, if we start to fall out of the top
with that
4,
Batman car, you'll see it back on the video.
with us, if we were to fall out of the top 4, it wouldn't have been the end of the world for me, because everyone's asking us, we prefer a trophy over Champions League, and it's definitely a trophy.
Trophy, 100%. Trophy?
Yeah, trophy, but just a quick one. I think actually today's result was so significant to that race,
yes.
because
I want to ask Harry that, Done it again, second week.
Sorry, it's just good minds think alike, but
presenter thing.
Yeah, Harry, Tottenham have got to play Man City and Arsenal next 2 games. They've already played Arsenal by the time this video comes out. I don't see Spurs getting 6 points, so we're going to have a nice little gap.
And Man United play Arsenal next as well. But yeah, so Harry, you can have the final say on the important win that Johnny was just saying there, because
you can
have the last word on everything, because it was getting tight. You've seen the likes of Brighton and Fulham, all these teams, good football inside Newcastle as well, who nobody really probably had in the top 4 or around the top 4, and obviously we've beaten, potentially we could have been a contender for top 4 if Fulham beat us today. But Chelsea's struggling, Liverpool's struggling. This could go all the way, couldn't it?
Yeah, of course it could. But another thing I think you take out of today's game is the teams that come to St James's Park and play for a point.
Definitely.
We might be able to start breaking them down today. I think was an example of that, because Fulham set the stall out with 15 minutes to go when they brought on Tosin Adarabioyo on play 5 at the back.
Well done.
Playing for a point. So that was evident, but it was important that we start. It's important that we start to break these teams down, stop the 0-0s like the Leeds, the Bournemouth, the Palaces, and we start picking up 3 points at home, because that will carry us into the Champions League. We need more wins rather than just 0-0 draws.
Yeah, it's important that we got that goal because that could have been 3-0 nils in the league in a row. But we'll wrap it up here. Go back and have a look at Johnny's match reaction with Harry. We were in the studio earlier on today. Somehow it's still a little bit blue, but outside. But yeah, go back and have a look at Scoring the Players. We did that live. Loads more videos as we count down towards games and transfer rumours, etc. If you haven't seen Harry's as well about Trossard, there's that an option with his contract running down. He doesn't want to be involved with Brighton in the carry on with their manager. Let us know in the comments. But from all of us four, see you everyone.